The Gladstone City Commission reorganization meeting is now called to order. The Delta County Board of Canvassers has certified the May 5th, 2015 special election, and the following are named as city commissioners for terms expiring November 1st of 2017, Joe Thompson and Steve View, and Dave Nemechek for a term expiring November 1st of 2015. I now ask that the three newly elected commissioners please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support
I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will
And I will faithfully discharge
the duties of City Commissioner
the duties of City Commissioner
in and for
in and for
the City of Gladstone,
the City of Gladstone,
County of Delta,
County of Delta,
and the State of Michigan,
and the State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
Thank you. I will now open the floor for nominations for the office of mayor. Anyone can make a motion for mayor?
I would make a motion to nominate. I thought about this a long time, because there was some concern about the inexperience of Mr. Bostwick and so on, but, you know, we have been criticized before for not doing what the public wants. And secondly, it's only a 6-month period, so he can, because he hasn't done this before, and he doesn't have any more experience on the commission than I do. So I'd like to make the motion that Mr. Bostwick be mayor.
Is there a second?
I'll support that.
There's been a motion and support for Commissioner Bostwick for the office of mayor. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
There will be a roll call. Commissioner Bostwick,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
No.
Commissioner Nemechek,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner View.
Yes.
Motion carries. Commissioner Bostwick, you are the new mayor. I ask that you please stand, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge
and I will faithfully discharge
the duties of mayor
the duties of mayor
in and for
in and for
the City of Gladstone,
the City of Gladstone,
County of Delta,
the County of Delta,
and the State of
and
Michigan,
the State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Thank you. The floor is now open for nominations for the office of Mayor Pro Tem.
I would move that we nominate Dave Nemechek as Mayor Pro Tem.
I support.
Okay, there's been a motion and support for Commissioner Nemechek for the office of Mayor Pro Tem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Commissioner Nemechek, I ask you please stand. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I do solemnly swear
I do solemnly swear
that I will support
I will support
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the Constitution of the state.
and that I will faithfully discharge
I will faithfully discharge
the duties of Mayor Pro Tem
the duties of Mayor Pro Tem
in and for
in and for
the City of Gladstone,
City of Gladstone,
County of Delta,
County of Delta,
and the State of Michigan,
State of Michigan,
according to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my abilities.
Thank you. This concludes the reorganization meeting. I would now like to obtain each of your signatures in the oath book and present the gavel to Mayor Bostwick for further proceedings. There you go, sir.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Wow, this is an old book.
I know.
How many years old is this?
It's back a ways.
Wow.
Right there, yep.
Oh. William Marble.
Yes,
Wow.
you actually get to sign twice, right there.
Oh, here too?
Mayor Pro Tem, yep.
2 paydays.
Yeah.
Not really. You're right there.
I don't remember signing this before.
You did.
Did I?
Okay.
Do you ever run buses over to Bessemer for skiing? Yeah. You get much of a turnout?
Sometimes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. I think they got a ticket over there that covers all 3 hills. Kind of pricey though. Yeah.
I call the meeting of the Gladstone City Commission for May 11th in order. The first business is the invocation, and could we have Mr. Commissioner Nemechek do it?
Let us pray. Lord God, our Heavenly Father, be with us tonight as we start with a new commission, new anxieties, new problems. We ask that you give us insight, give us strength, and give us courage. Ask that you give us tolerance for one another. Ask in your name. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the secretary will call roll of members.
Commissioner Gay?
Here.
Commissioner Nemechek?
Here.
Commissioner Thompson?
Here.
Commissioner View?
Here.
And Mayor Bostwick.
Here. Okay. The first thing we have is public comment.
Good evening. My name is Mike Lindahl. I'm the Executive Director of the Gladstone Housing Commission. I'd like to welcome the new members of the commission. I thought I'd just come up and introduce myself a little bit and just let you know that the Housing Commission is a part of the City of Gladstone. Although we do not have any direct financial ties with the city commission does have some oversight on the Housing Commission. Our board is appointed by the mayor, so in October, Mayor Bostwick will probably be either reappointing or appointing a new board member for us. We also are audited by Anderson Tackman, which is the same audit firm that the city is audited by. You will see in the city audit an appendage of the Gladstone Housing Commission with our audit report on that. So if you have any questions, what you see there, you can contact me. Feel free to. If you ever have any concerns about the Housing Commission, please come down and see me, talk to me. I'd be more than happy to show you around the place. But I just wanted to come up and introduce myself and just congratulate those who are on the board.
Thank you. Go ahead, Russ.
Good evening. My name is Russ Hall, and I'm here mainly because of some items on the agenda, which are items G, H, I, and J. I've been on the rec board for about 26, 27 years, and so I felt it would be important to come and indicate the rec board's feeling regarding some of these properties. The rec board, I believe anyway, that recreation is an important governmental activity that you as a commission are responsible for, and Gladstone has always marketed itself and felt that it's a year-round playground and has a very extensive and well-run recreation department. It's what makes, from my perspective, Gladstone such a nice place to live. So And I'm proud of that, what we've done. And I think we've had a rec board that's worked very hard. In fact, a number of our members have 15 or 20 years, so they're very familiar with it. One of the things is that we believe the open spaces that the city of Gladstone have are very important. And I know that this council, or at least as the prior council anyway, has addressed or looked at various properties that either can be marketed or sold. And so I'd like to go through those because those are some things that we've discussed before on the rec board. Most importantly is, I think you referred to as a Bradford Jones property. It's about the western 400 feet of our, what I consider Van Cleve Park. As you may know, or other people may not know, is that property is leased from the James T. Jones Trust. It's been leased for, I believe, more than 60 years, and it's been leased by basically forgiving the property taxes on the property. So the city has gained a great benefit of having parkland that it didn't have to pay for other than the property taxes. The rec board has for a number of years, every time they do a 5-year plan, one of the most important pieces of that plan is this land that we believe is an integral part of our Van Cleve Park. It is not really developed. It has a exercise trail on it. But the main thing is it's there for other future development. Once or if this property is ever developed, we can't get it back. And so from our standpoint, we've always been very appreciative of the people the trustee that we deal with on the James T. Jones Trust to allow us to continue to lease it. In prior years, we've looked at trying to figure out if we can get some grant funds or recreational funds to purchase it so that if the trust ever decided to cancel the lease, we'd be prepared in order to come up with a plan to purchase it. And so I can assure you that this has been the most important aspect or goal of the rec board for the last 20 years. I would note, and I understand the city has financial issues that it needs to address, but if that property were developed and to have an assessed value of $1 million, at a 15 mil rate, and I think the rate went up, but let's just use 15 mils because I can use that to multiply, it only amounts to $7,500 a year. I don't see that as a good way to solve the financial problems, which are much in excess of that. The second piece of property that I know that's on your agenda is the ball field, which is a ball field by the yacht club. It seems to me, and again, we've actually never talked about the ball field because it's really been part of the city property, and so we weren't as concerned that we'd actually lose that. But the rec board has looked at a number of different options of development over the past years. One was some type of not a band shell's not the right word I'm looking for, but some type of stage for outdoor events. It is a large open area that could have a lot of uses. In the past, it's used for baseball, pee-wee, or not pee-wee football, but something like that. Pop Warner football, thank you. And then I remember going down there to see water fights between the Escanaba Township and the city of Gladstone back on 4th of July. So it's always had a use, and I think it's an important aspect of our park because it's such a large open area that can field various activities. The other two parcels, I think I'll deal with the one that is across or near the wastewater plant that currently we have a walkway along. That's again, an open space that for the people down in that area have access to use. I guess I'm not as strong in that, but I think that we should be very careful before we get rid of any of our open spaces. And so I think right now we have a walkway. I think that if it ever were developed, should be some type of developmental plan that keeps a walkway either along the water so that the city retains like a recreational easement 10 feet along the water so that it'd be available to the public. The same would hold true for the other area, which is I guess someone called it the property where the brain sculpture is. That's not what it's supposed to be, but I think everyone knows what we're talking about. That's about 300 feet of lake frontage that could be developed. I looked at a little history of this before coming here today, and that was designated as a park back in the Assessor's Plat number 1 of Gladstone, which was adopted by this commission back in 1927. Again, unless there's some type of exceptional development, I think having the open space is important. But I guess I want to reiterate that I think the most important aspects of our rec plan have been that the James T. Jones property with the Bradford as is on your agenda, and the baseball diamond. I would point out that we're aware, and I think maybe you will be aware, that the city only spends about $50 per resident for recreational activities, which for all the recreational activities it provides, I think is exceptional value. It also, in that rec budget, includes maintaining of the parks and open spaces that we have all throughout the city. So I appreciate the activity that the council's done in the past to protect the recreational activities, and I would ask the board to do that. If the board is really serious about considering selling or trying to market one of these properties, I'd ask that you refer to the rec board committee before you do that. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. Anyone else?
My name is Dean Boven, 1325 Michigan Avenue, and this is something that I thought was going to happen but didn't. And I'm not sure on these dates, but I want to say last March that the commission had voted to start extending the hours out here in the front office. And I believe they said it was going to start around April 1st. Well, I came here today, 8:45, and the doors are still locked at 9 till 3. I was just wondering what happened.
Thank you. We can't, public comment is only for you to talk about. Public comment is for you to address the board. If you can talk to Darla after the meeting, and I'm sure she'll give you the information you want. Any more? No? Okay. Next on the agenda is conflict of interest. Darla, maybe we should talk about that, saying we got 2 new commissioners in case.
Sure, this is a standard item on the agenda. Conflict of interest, according to the Commissioner's Rules of Procedure. At this time, any commissioner would identify if you have a conflict of interest of any item currently listed on the agenda. You would excuse yourself before we even got to that agenda item. Now is the time that you would identify, if there was an item on the agenda that you would feel you may have a conflict of interest on, and then it's the rest of the commission's decision whether they feel, yes, you do have a true conflict, and, would excuse you from any discussion or vote on when we get to that item.
Okay. So next is the consent agenda for the City Commission regular minutes of April 27th, the Planning Commission minutes of April 7th, the DDA regular meeting minutes of April 14th, Parks and Rec Board minutes of May 5th, and the payment of bills.
Was that first list year-to-date list?
It was, for a year.
That's what I thought. This new list we have is for the month?
Correct.
Okay.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the consent agenda. Support.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Thompson and support by Commissioner Gay. Any discussion?
I think for the benefit of the new commissioners, in city accounting, you move money around that you wouldn't normally do in private accounting. Which is true. In private accounting, you'd have a payroll department and you'd pay people. And then you would charge those departments, but you wouldn't move money around.
Well, we're not actually moving money around. We have like 14 or 15 sets of books, and payroll comes out of each one of those departments. Each fund would be like a department.
I understand.
So-
But it's sometimes confusing if you're not used to the way this is done.
Sure.
Okay.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It passes. Next is public hearings, and there are none. So next is unfinished business, A, Parks and Recreation user fees for 2015-16, and Nicole Sanderson.
Good evening, and also welcome to the new commissioners. My name's Nicole Sanderson. I'm the Parks and Recreation Director for the City of Gladstone. We have in front of you again our recreational user fees. We update these fees once annually. Last commission meeting, the board had some questions still on resident and non-resident rates. I did take these fees back to the rec board, and we had a lengthy discussion. Mayor Bostwick was there asking questions about the campground and the ski hill in particular, whether there was resident and non-resident rates, and why did they not apply to those two areas of recreation. And after lengthy discussion, we had decided that for the tubing, it's mostly people out of town anyway, so those are basically an out-of-resident rate. Although if you do buy a season pass, you and you're a resident of Gladstone, you get a discounted rate, so you are getting a resident rate through our tubing. And then our campground is mostly people out of town, and to be able to determine whether you're a City of Gladstone resident is probably going to be very difficult for our campground manager, and it's more of a regional park. So we, after a lengthy discussion, we had decided to stick with the user fees that we had recommended, and we're asking you to approve those tonight.
Not much of a difference in as far as the skiing between the resident and non-resident. Very, very little difference. 190 to 220, 110 to 125, 125, 150. I don't know if there's a formula that you utilize to calculate these, but
Something you would like to look at later as far as maybe making a bigger gap in between those?
well, I mean, you know, I've made this comment many times that the city of Gladstone residents all pay taxes to support all of the recreation programs, and there are some of those programs that people who don't pay City of Gladstone taxes utilize. And we've had this discussion, I mentioned it before, about some of the other, you know, some of the other facilities that we have in town that somehow we need to figure out how to capture a fee for those, because we all pay to, you know, maintain those and staff them in some cases. You know, we had talked about parking passes, that type of thing for the beach. You know, the first thing I hear is, well, then nobody's gonna come to the beach. I don't know that that's accurate. I don't know that there's any data to support that, but that's the initial response. But everyone in town pays to support these, and I was just questioning the slight difference between the, you know, resident and non-resident.
Sure.
And
Something
frankly,
we-
100% of the residents of the city pay taxes to support this, and I don't know that we can quantify a number, but I'd like to see what percentage of the community actually utilizes these facilities.
Sure.
So, just out of curiosity.
Well, and anytime you can get a grasp on who your users are is always going to be beneficial. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, so the more we
So
know,
I
the
don't know if
better
there's
we
some
are.
way to institute a tracking, you know, some sort of, you know, we have to be careful not to add additional labor to an already stretched labor force, but
And we do track right now how many residents bought passes and how many non-residents bought passes. I have all that information and data.
Okay.
As far as daily use, no, we
Okay.
don't have those numbers. We did do a couple of surveys at the campground to see who was from the area and who
well,
was from.
the
you know.
campground's kind of a different, its own different, you know, I mean.
It's nice- it's nice-
Realistically, there's a few people from Gladstone that probably camp there, but if I wanted to go camping, I'm not gonna go to, you know, if I'm gonna go camping, I'm gonna go a ways from my house.
Sure.
I know there are some people in the city that do utilize it, I'm not disparaging that at all, but, you know, obviously, we want people from outside the community to come into the community and utilize the campground, but these other services,
We
you know, I guess
also-
ultimately, my question is, how did you figure the differences between the resident and non-resident?
We just came up with a little bit of a gap. You know, it was, I can't remember my formula. We used, it was a percentage rate, and we kind of went across the board with that. Our boat launch, we do track those numbers to see who's coming from where. So when you buy the boat launch pass, we have a season and resident and non-resident rate on those, so we can see who's coming from Oconto and Peshtigo and things like that, and how many people are utilizing them within the city. We also have a tracking system for renting of the pavilions and things like that. And I will tell you that we are discussing at the rec board level intensely usage of the park and how we could do this and utilize it, and different avenues which we can take to possibly not only just track, but maybe recoup some of our costs.
And that's probably something that, you know, any of the departments with discretionary spending will need to be looking at, because as we go forward, knowing what the financial outlook is for the city, it's going to get to the point where we need to justify every dollar that we spend, and we need to, you know, be able to defend it. So that data is going to be very important into the future.
And I want to say, I think another important step that we've taken is when we started initiating these resident and non-resident rates, we've established basically a value to these areas. So we can kind of go to the townships now and say, this is what we offer, and this is the difference that your residents.
So you're looking at that with the
Rec board?
beach?
Yes.
But you're looking at with those areas that we currently have no fee structure for?
Well, and we've established, if you have your children in our programs, it costs more. If you go to our ski hill, it costs more. You know, if you go to our boat launch, it costs more. So we've established these resident, non-resident rates. Maybe eventually we're going to be able to come up with a package that we can sell to the townships, and kind of like a parking permit up at the landfill. Maybe the townships would like to offer their residents the same type of permit to use our facilities. And so we've established a value to our services that we have here. And we are still talking about usage of the park and how we would go about putting a value on that. So when we go to the townships, we could say, you get all of this for this. So we are working, and that was a lengthy discussion also at the rec board level last month.
Nicole?
Yes.
I think the part that bothered me about it is you look, for instance, at the gazebo. $25 if you're a resident, $60 if you're non-resident. Huge difference,
Huge
percentage-wise.
difference. Sure.
I look at the beach house.
Okay.
$70 and then $120. But then, you know, Matt's right, when you get down to the skiing, there's very little difference percentage-wise. To me, it would be like 150, 220. I mean, I think there ought to be more.
Or 190, 270.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly,
something like that.
exactly. I think there ought to be a big differential there too, because, but like what he says about, you know, being the supporter of it. It seems to flip-flop, it seems to vary a lot depending on what part of it you're looking at.
Were you concerned when you were putting these numbers together, were you concerned about losing non-resident customers?
I was still having what they call the apologetic rates at the ski hill, because we didn't have a product that we could sell before.
But we've invested tens of thousands of dollars, now we have a product that we
Now
can
we have a
sell.
product.
Yes.
Now we have a product. So we were kind of waiting for this year's numbers to come in to see where we fell and how we did, and, you know, do we have a product that we can ask more for now? And you know, the numbers are still low at the ski hill as far as because of February's cold month. So we're still analyzing the ski hill, and I think that's probably why there's not that big of a gap there. We still wanted to be able to get the people up there for the after-school program and buying the passes and getting the buses here from Escanaba and different things like that. But it's definitely something that we can look at. We have a product we can sell now.
I have two questions. First off, being new here, did you establish the rates going up on anything, like the residential rates compared to the non-residential rates? Where did you start, or as far as determining that is there an increase from before? Because I don't know what you charged before.
These were the same rates as last year.
Okay, so there's no increase in
There was no
anything.
increase.
You just decreased the non-resident.
No, we
I mean,
didn't
decrease the
change, we didn't change anything from last year.
Oh, so you had these same
These
rates,
same rates.
both of them?
Yes.
How come we're approving them again?
I approve them every year.
Okay, every year they need
Yeah.
to be reapproved? And why, and then, can you explain why there was no residential rates for tubing?
Yeah. So, tubing,
That would
We-
be the funnest thing for the kids in the area here along outside, so.
well, and you would think so. It's kind of like having Disneyland in your backyard. As far as tubing goes, we do. We get residents that go up there and tube. Most of our residents that go up there to tube go up there with church parties, Boy Scouts, activities like that. And once in a while, we'll get groups of kids that go up there and tube that are local. But our tubing, primarily, I would say, besides the parties, 85% of them are probably from out of town.
Well, you get a lot of revenue from that, but why not still give the rate for the few that use it from the city?
If you buy a combo pass, you do get that, and you're a resident, you do get that discount. And most of the people that are buying the passes and using the ski hill that are local are skiers and snowboarders.
Okay, well, I was just wondering why we
Sure.
didn't treat them the same as some of the other areas in the recreation program.
Okay, any more discussion before we vote?
Well, before we vote, are we going to look at these differentials this year or next year? You and your board, rec board. Is
Well-
this something you want to work with this year and then make bigger adjustments next year after you have better data?
I would feel more comfortable at that, because like I said, I really didn't want to scare anybody away or have a
Right.
sticker shock. We added 2 new schools to our after-school program that are outside of the area.
Okay.
We still wanted to make it affordable. And you're right, it is very affordable.
Yeah.
Now we just have to market it and sell it.
Okay.
Okay, do I hear a motion for this user fee?
I'll move.
Support.
Got a motion by Pro Tem Nemechek and support by Commissioner Gay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Okay, next, under new business is the Delta County Commerce Professional Fishing. Darla?
The special event permit was filled out by Vicky Mishaw on behalf of the MWC qualifier tournament that is coming to Gladstone July 30th through August 2nd. Passed this by staff. We have no problems. We've had this tournament in the past in Gladstone, and the last page there is, they're going to be using the sports park Friday night and a list of things that we help them with. No problems on any of the lists there. Fully support the event.
I move approval.
Support.
All right, we got a support, motion by Nemechek and a support by Commissioner Gay. Any discussion on it? No? All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, next is the amendment to the special use parks and marina rules, and that's Nicole.
Busy time of the year for the Recreation Department. Every so often, we either go over our rules or we find something that needs to be adjusted. This year, we did have an adjustment to our harbor rules. We have a unique situation in our marina. We have a west end area, which is build your own dock. So I modified the rules on the last page to read that there is no subletting of your dock, whether that be
What was the last paragraph?
yeah,
Okay.
whether that be a dock that is fixed, that the city has built, or your own dock that you put in on the west end. Once you put that dock in there, the marina personnel have the right to rent out the slip next to it. So although you put your dock in, and you put your boat in, and you paid for that, and that's your dock, you really can't sublet that dock out or that slip out. That's the city's right to do that. So you can't sublet your slip. It is just the way it is on the west end. It's worked wonders for years, and everybody gets along fine.
If the people install their own docks, do they sign a liability waiver?
Yes, it is, yep.
That's included in
Yep.
there, so we're not responsible for any damage that somebody who we may sublet that to does to someone else's property?
No.
Okay, good.
What were they doing, putting out a dock using one side and subletting the other side?
Yes.
Well, that makes sense.
Can you
So- Makes sense someone would do that.
So the poor person had already paid the city the $600 for the slip, also had to maybe pay the gentleman for his dock also. And usually there's agreements down there between the boaters, and they all get along fine, and you come down and help me put my dock in, and everything was fine. But it wasn't really written out in the rules, and I think that we needed to have that clarified so it was clear.
Is that the same in the whole harbor?
No.
You can
Well, you
sub-
can't sublet your own slip. When you leave for more than 3 days, you're supposed to let the harbor master know, and then we can put a transient in that slip. But if you leave halfway through the season and you say, you know what, I'm gonna sell my boat, and I'm gonna let my neighbor stay in there, no. That person has got to pay the additional fee from day one. We don't have half months or half seasons or anything.
That makes sense. I move approval.
Support.
All right, we've got a motion in support by Pro Tem Nemechek and a support by Commissioner View. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All
Thanks
right,
again.
Motion passes. Thanks, Nicole. All right, next up is gonna be the canceling the May 25th regular commission meeting.
May 25th is a holiday. We typically cancel the second meeting, although the next item I'm recommending a second meeting in May. What's your pleasure?
Move approval.
I'll support it.
All right, got a motion by Pro Tem Nemechek and a support by Commissioner View. I mean, Tom View, yeah, sorry. Anyways,
That's okay.
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Next is the schedule of the study session for the fiscal year 2015-16 budget and capital outlay bond proposal. Darla?
So the city commission rules of procedure identify, you typically have 2 meetings a month. However, you do have the right to cancel a meeting and schedule study sessions, as they're called in the rules. So we are recommending scheduling a study session either Tuesday, May 26th, Wednesday, May 27th, or Thursday, May 28th. Really kind of to get the new commissioners up to speed on the 2015-2016 budget that was approved. Absolutely can be amended. The budget is a living document. But wanted to kind of get everybody up to speed on what is already approved in the budget for this year, and then talk about the capital outlay, the boards that we've had in City Hall here for a couple months now. We did an initial informational presentation on them. Just kind of want to get the commission's feedback. All department heads would be at these meetings as well, posted in the newspaper and open to the public. Recommending 5 o'clock, but I hope everybody brought their calendar so we can schedule something.
The 26th works for
posted.
me.
26th
26th works for me.
at
Fine
5.
for me.
Yeah, that works for me.
It's all good, yeah.
26th.
Tuesday, 26th.
26th, so moved.
Support.
All right, well, I heard motion to schedule the study session on Tuesday, May 26th at 5 o'clock by Commissioner Gay and support by Commissioner Thompson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right.
Good.
All right, the next then is introduce the city millage rate and set a public hearing for Monday, June 8th, 7 o'clock at the City Hall. Darla?
There's a form every year, it's called the L4029, that the commission has to approve prior to taxes going out in July. Typically, it comes before the commission the second meeting in June. There's a notice that has to be published. A sample is attached to the agenda tonight. But the full city's millage rate is on this L4029. For whatever reason, years ago, the public voted for 2 separate line items as the city's millage rate, both for operations, a maximum of 15. Due to the Headley rollback, that is down to 13.6785, and then a separate 2 mills for operations, which is rolled back to 1.8236. So the budget that we put together for the 2015-16 fiscal year includes levying 15.5021 mills, but thought if you wanted to have a public hearing June 8th, we could schedule that tonight due to the second meeting in May being canceled for public comment on the millage rate, and then you would still have the June 22nd commission meeting to approve the L4029.
I do have a little bit of a problem with this notice. Is this what would be published?
That's required by law.
Notice of public hearing on increasing property taxes?
That is the state law, the Truth in Lending Act, it's a state law, and if you do a public
But
hearing.
we're not
this is the
increasing
notice.
property taxes.
You have to do the calculation, yep, and when the taxes, the roll is set, there's a calculation done, and it very well could be, you know, depending on what it is, and that information
gotcha,
has to be
okay.
put in there, so.
Okay.
It
We
is
even- we call the county
language that is
treasurer,
a-
or
Yeah, that does, it
And-
doesn't make a lot of sense the way it's
I know,
written.
I agree.
Because we levied the same, you know, last year we levied the
Right.
same amount, so.
Yeah, but in the Truth in Lending, if you hold a public hearing on that, that is the language you have to use.
Okay.
Any more discussion?
I'll move.
Support.
All right, got a motion by Pro Tem Nemechek and support by Commissioner View to set a public hearing for June 8th at 7 o'clock. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is the introduction and set public hearing on proposed ordinance 597, snowmobiles, ORVs, and off-road vehicles. Darla?
This has been, we had an ordinance really regarding snowmobiles in the past, but it didn't address four-wheelers, dirt bikes, the off-road vehicles, year-round vehicles. So we formed a subcommittee, which consisted of Director Paul Geyer, Kim Berry, the city clerk. We had Gary Stevenson on there. Gary's on our rec board, and he's very familiar with the snowmobile trails. And Parks and Recreation Director Nicole Sanderson. To really research other people's ORV ordinances. We looked at other communities, got familiar with the local snowmobile trails. Our public safety officers really didn't have anything to enforce when they found ORVs, you know, not on designated trails. So really this kind of was complaint driven as well. We really needed to put our own policy in place. What this really, it doesn't mean you can get on your four-wheeler and ride it all over the city. That's absolutely not the purpose of this ordinance. It's to get a person on their ORV from point A to point B to get them to the trails that are in the townships and other areas. So we have a sample ordinance or a draft ordinance before you tonight. And then, just to kind of give you a heads up, the last page that we have in here, City of Gladstone streets prohibited for snowmobile ATV use. We would like to adopt this by resolution separately, because then these can be amended. To amend an ordinance, you're talking a lengthy process. If the ordinance is good, let's get that in place, and then address what streets can be driven on or not separately, so that can be changed if needed in the future. So this went to the last rec board meeting. They support the draft before you tonight, so we're ready to present it for a public hearing if you wish.
This is basically something that needed to be done because the way our ordinance currently reads is there is no operations of ORVs in the city whatsoever, and that's been tolerated. Obviously, we have a lot of people that ice fish, and, you know, that primarily, I believe there was a unofficial policy of between this month and this month that it was permitted. But theoretically, that wasn't supposed to be the way it was enforced. So this actually is a positive thing to help regulate, and the way I view it, if you've got someone that's a serious problem, it gives you some authority to correct that problem.
I have a question about 5C. It talks in here about having designated access points through parks. And, you know, I guess I'm kind of pointing towards ice fishing and accessing the lake. And currently, people access the lake through parks. And it says in here that, you know, within city-owned parks, except at designated access points. Well, it doesn't really designate any access points in here. I guess I'd like to see designated access points, because it really doesn't do any good to be able to drive your snowmobile through town if you got no way to get to the lake to ice fish. You really don't want to be driving down Lake Shore Drive to get to the boat launch to get on.
Right. Yep.
Maybe that's something that should be added to the resolution portion.
yeah.
So maybe this needs to go back, so your committee can look at it and see which, where specifically you want that access point for.
The committee talked about that, and I believe that was the intention, was to include it on the resolution part of it, so that if it needed to be modified in the future, it could be, with a resolution through you. I see here, we just had it as prohibited areas, but we could certainly add that as part of the resolution part of it, where those access points are with a description.
I think
that was fully our intention, and in fact, see, we put the note in about, marking with a red sticker indicate prohibited routes, but we also talked about the access points of where they exist kind of now through the park.
And
So,
that's why they said you're allowed to go to the parks to get to the access points. If different properties are sold, those access points are gonna change.
And that's why I think
So,
it'd be
yeah.
important to put it in the resolution, because it's
Right.
much easier to change that than to
Yep.
amend the ordinance, so.
and that was our intention. So we can, talk with Director Geyer and the committee and have that as a proposal to you.
Just
for the
so
next
everybody
meeting.
knows where they can get on and off the lake.
Right. Mhm.
Perhaps something we should table till the next meeting,
Completely
or
up to you.
2 meetings from now.
Get whichever you guys want to do.
I'd move that we table the introduction and set public hearing on proposed ordinance number 597, snowmobiles, ORVs, and off-road vehicles, to the next regular scheduled commission meeting.
Which would be June 8th.
I support.
Okay, we have a motion to table the proposed ordinance 597 to the June 8th meeting by Commissioner Gay and support by Commissioner Thompson. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is the Lake Shore Drive parcel, the city property.
So just a little background before we get into the next 4 agenda items. Previous Mayor Mackey and Commissioner Gay met with myself and a couple staff members, and these 4 parcels, we'll take them one at a time, were identified to see if they could be considered for development. That was the direction by the commission of myself. I worked with Attorney Don Bacon to do some background on the 4 parcels, and I'd just like to update the public where we're at with each one of the parcels. We do have a recommendation on each one of them, but completely up to the commission where we want to see these go. So the first one is the Lake Shore Drive parcel. Coming in on Lake Shore Drive, it's the property to the right on the lakeside before you get into the row of residential houses there. Kind of across from the armory is up on the hill right there. That's the first parcel. So in the research that we did, this is currently a city-owned parcel. The legal description is Park 3, and it's currently zoned R3, which is residential. It has a clean title, there's no restrictions. Let's see. We are recommending that this parcel could be moved to the Planning Commission to see if it's according to the policy for sale of city property, to determine consistency with the master plan and the future land use map. If it is consistent with the city policy, this parcel could be added to the city's list of property for sale, but before it gets added to the list, we are recommending, possibly at the June 8th commission meeting, having a public hearing on this parcel only to get public comment on adding this parcel to the list of city property for sale. That's the background on this one.
Is that used too right now for access to the ice?
Yep, if you see on the map there, there's
Yeah.
kind of like that
That little trail.
little dirt road next to the first house there. But that, we were thinking that could be moved down.
Towards the park, or?
I don't know, I guess we would have to look at where Paul or Nicole or the rec board would recommend people access the ice.
Because that's heavily used at certain times of the year right now, I noticed that. Okay.
Yep.
We need to have a very clear conversation. This ties into the financial position of the city. We need to have a very clear conversation and determine a path forward. I see no, to continue on with our current services, the way they are, with costs increasing, we have to raise revenue, one way or another. Now, either that comes by way of development, or that comes by way of higher taxes, and then there's a third option, and the third option is to reduce expenditures. So there's three ways to do this, and I know there's a lot of emotional heat with this. I was involved, as the city manager indicated, with the initial process of identifying these and these particular properties and trying to figure out where they're at with some of the covenants and restrictions on the deeds and that. So realistically, we identified several properties, and then we kind of determined that these were kind of the low-hanging fruit, for lack of better terms. So I guess, we need to look at a direction forward as far as what we're gonna do. This all ties into the financial position of the city and how we're going to either build revenue or decrease costs. This particular piece of property, it's a valuable piece of property. We did mention, and I mentioned in the last meeting, that this process for these selling or whatever, modifying the current agreement with these pieces of properties needed to be very public. We need to make sure that we have plenty of public input and the public's fully advised as to what we're doing, because it is such an emotional issue for some people who are very deeply invested in parks. But, we've got a couple of these, and we'll get into the other ones. We have a couple of these that are prime for development, and I don't know if June 8th is we've got quite a few things going on June 8th, but that may actually involve more people in the public hearing. People are here for other issues. But we do need to seriously look at assets that the city has that are underutilized. And we've got quite a few of them, frankly. So I don't know if there's...
No, my only contention is, I'd like to see what the citizens want. I mean, deep in my heart, that's who I listen to, and developing this piece, if the right person came in and it was a positive step for the city and not raising taxes, let's see what they say. But we have a lot of property for sale in the city. And if people want to develop here, I mean, we're willing to give them deals all over the place on stuff, and it's not happening. So, I mean, even if you sold this or had it up for sale, it may never be developed for years and years, and you're not going to get that revenue for a long time.
We've had
Okay, go ahead.
We've had city lots for sale up on the bluff forever.
I know, that's,
There's quite a few of them up there. Nobody wants to build up there.
why?
I don't know.
Well,
I live down
let's
here.
ask the-
I live down here. So, but they don't want to build up there. Our prime pieces of property, our number one asset, I would argue, our number one asset in this community is our waterfront. Can you think of a more valuable piece of property in the city than something that we have that's on the waterfront?
Yeah, but not just to sell it either. It's an asset because the people can utilize it and they enjoy that type of use.
But that's
with it.
not quantifiable. That's not a quantifiable, that's kind of subjective. And
No.
I don't disagree with that.
No,
I'm
I
just
know.
saying that, we're in a situation where we have to look at the numbers and figure out, we got choice A, B, or C. What are we gonna do? And this was identified, and I wouldn't support right now saying, yeah, we're gonna put this up for sale, but I would support at least getting a determination from the planning commission, and having a public hearing, making sure this is, you know, there's plenty of input on this, and then, you know, we can proceed, because just because we have a public hearing on June 8th doesn't mean that we add that to the list of property for sale at that meeting. We have that option. We can do it further down the road. But I think that, you know, at least take the next step and determine that that is consistent with the master plan for future development.
Where does that property begin and end? Does it run all the way out, or does it end before
It
this access
starts
road?
right past the, do you see the paved road going down there? Right past that
Okay,
to
right,
right next to that first house.
okay.
I believe there's only like a 10-foot setback from that house to that property line, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, this house is pretty close to the property line.
Does the city property go all the length of the sidewalk
Yes. Yeah, we own all the way down,
to the end of the sidewalk or beyond the
oh,
sidewalk?
beyond the sidewalk.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So we're only talking
I-
about
I-
the piece from that house.
I personally don't think we wouldn't be doing our job unless we determined what we can sell, what we can't sell, how it fits into the plan. That doesn't mean we're gonna sell today or tomorrow.
Right.
I don't think we'd be doing our job unless we do this.
One thing we did discuss, I know myself and former Mayor Mackey mentioned it multiple times, that with the city property, whether it be, you know, if we're to develop it, whether it be the ball field or this property, we were going to maintain the right-of-way of the waterfront itself for public access. Because obviously, there's a lot of use of both, you know, summer and winter down at that ball field for water access. It would be counterproductive, in my opinion, to limit the public's access to our most precious resource that we have here. So, you know, and it really wouldn't affect the marketability of that property. Because the appeal to that property, to frankly any of the properties, is traffic at the waterfront. So, and I believe that ball field is a prime piece of property, but there's a few more hoops to jump through on that, and we'll get into that later. But identifying whether it meets the criteria, we at least need to know that, and then we need to have very significant discussion with the public to see, to try to gauge what we can do and or what they feel we can do. And if, you know, if it ultimately comes back that we don't want to sell any city property, then we have to go to choice B or C. So either way, we have to tackle this issue and determine if this is how we want to move forward with growing revenue.
All right, do I hear a motion then?
I moved.
Support?
All right, we got a motion by Commissioner Gay and support by Pro Tem Nemechek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose?
Just to clarify the motion, that was to move to the planning commission to determine consistency with the master plan and future land use maps, and to set the public hearing for June 8th?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, next is the lease property to Jones Bradford.
This parcel, legal description is Park 4, currently zoned Park/Public, is leased from the trustee of the estate of James T. Jones. Since the city doesn't own this parcel, the city can terminate the lease, could possibly rezone the property, and the property would go back on the tax rolls. This one, we are recommending have Planning Commission evaluate the parcel for consistency with the master plan and the future land use map, and bring it back here, you know, pending that decision.
This property has since 1984, is that what we?
That was-
September 1st, 1984.
Yep.
Again, we're back to a very valuable asset in the city, our waterfront. This piece of property has not been taxed since that point. It currently is part of the park, and it's currently zoned as a park, I believe.
Yep.
We determined that, I mean, we determined that it's consistent with, you know, the neighboring area as far as residential. It could be either or. But the biggest thing that we thought is that, you know, that you have a piece of property that's appreciating in value and not being taxed. There is somewhat of a benefit for the public. But it's also next to a very large park where that has a very similar activity, you know. And I've been contacted by several people that, either previous commissioners or people involved in the city, that can't understand, you know, that claim that this is not utilized very often. And frankly, it's a very nice piece of property that could be developed, and I believe by doing this, we're going to kind of, you know, tell them that they've had basically no taxes since 1984, and it's time to do something with that piece of property. Again, it's another emotional issue that a lot of people are deeply vested in, park property, and it looks like we're going after parks and trying to skim them down to get a couple extra pesos, and that's really not the case. We're trying to identify options that the commission would have and the city would have to deal with the revenue issues. And this is another one. Approve the resolution to have planning commission evaluate the parcel for consistency with master plan and future land use map and rezone according to the zoning rules. This one, the way I read the staff recommendation, this would actually take action on this tonight, correct? Because this is just the resolution. The resolution actually terminates the lease, and the lease reads that the city can terminate the lease at any time, you know, with or without cause, I believe is how it reads. But we do have a right of first refusal, and this resolution terminates that claim to.
Have we talked to the owners of this piece of property of what we're doing, or isn't it owned, or what?
The attorney contacted Wells Fargo handles the estate.
So it's in an estate, I mean,
It's in a trust.
Trust.
It's in a trust.
Yeah, it's not actually,
I mean, does somebody actually own it that lives in Gladstone, or no?
The person that we have contact with does not live in Gladstone.
And Gladstone doesn't use this area at all? This part?
maybe Nicole can speak on that. Actually, I don't, so,
No, I'm just-
you know, I don't know
It's where the fitness
specifically.
trail
There's a fitness
is.
trail there. My understanding is that there was a fitness trail was a big thing 15, 20 years ago. I don't know. And
I have a little bit of information that could be useful. I do know Mr. Radford very well. He spends a lot of his time, he's got property up in Round Lake. He also lives in New Mexico, and he's got an office in Chicago. He really does absolutely love Gladstone, and he is a very, I want to say simple person. He loves Gladstone, and he really thinks that he is doing the citizens of Gladstone a favor by keeping this parkland. He's asked us in the rec department to keep it clean, keep it raked, and keep it green space, and that's what he would like to do. I always made it very clear that if he wanted to sell it, that we would be interested in doing that. We would need some time to get the money together because it is a very valuable piece of property. He's a very nice man, loves Gladstone. You could talk to him very easily as far as communicating with him. I would hate to see something happen to offend him. So maybe a conversation might be a good, in my opinion, a good avenue. Dara has
Why
done,
did this information not, I mean, if the city manager was contacting Wells Fargo, why did?
because we wanted to find out
understand.
who, you know, what kind of a trust it was or whatever. He comes into my office maybe twice a year and just says, hey, how's it going? You know, this looks nice, there's a pathway down there. A nice guy, I mean, and we can definitely, find out about the trust. Dar was instructed to do that, and she's done that through Wells Fargo. A conversation also might be okay also. But I think it's clear that he only meant good things by the property. He wasn't trying to like get out of paying taxes or anything.
I don't
yeah, so just to be
dispute
clear.
that.
Yeah,
I
just
don't
to be
dispute
clear.
that, but I would say that we have a very valuable piece of property that's currently not on the tax
Sure.
rolls. That frankly, we have a very large park right next to it.
Sure.
And it definitely has been identified as a piece of property that needs to be evaluated further as far as future use.
I'd like to hear from the gentleman if we can get a hold of him. I really would, you know, I mean, since 1984, he's been letting the city use it. I mean, how much taxes
Well,
are
it's-
we
it's-
looking at for this piece of property? Does anyone know what it's valued at? I mean, we're just doing something, we don't even know what we're gonna get for it or anything.
Currently zoned public, or currently zoned parks, so, you know, as far as rezoning it and then doing having the assessor evaluate it and see what is comparable.
And
I'd like to
isn't
know
that what Dar was
portion
going to
of it,
do?
too. You know,
Wasn't that the next step? Take it to the planning commission to see what it was
Well,
valued?
the next step would be to have the planning commission evaluate the parcel for consistency with the master plan and rezone according to the zoning rules.
That doesn't involve changing anything with the trust at the moment, does it?
Well, this resolution terminates the lease, correct?
Correct.
This
But you don't have to
resolution-
approve the resolution. I mean, you can do multiple things.
Yeah,
You know, from here, go to a public hearing to see what the public feels. From here, you can refer it to planning commission to determine consistency with the master plan. You can do resolution and planning commission.
I think, you know, in keeping with the, at least my personal commitment to the people I spoke with and making sure that this is very public and very, you know, thorough, this should probably go to public hearing. You know, at face value, I would say that, you know, this is a piece of property that could very easily be developed. And, you know, when you're weighing the benefits versus, you know, advantages versus disadvantages, I think, you know, we'd really have to get a barometer of the public on this particular, you know, piece and clearly distinguish what is and what is not part of it.
And I also
Again,
think-
we still have the very large park right next to it.
Well, and I also think that establishing a value to that property, you know, how much is it worth, having a conversation with Mr. Radford to see if his plans have changed, or if he wants to keep it in parkland or something like this. Maybe he is ready to develop it or sell. I mean, we don't know, we haven't had that
It very
conversation.
well, he might be there,
Mm-hmm.
but we're not in a position to buy it unless we have some sort of grant funding.
No.
You know, we're already struggling on the, as far as the boardwalk, the bike path that we're working on, you know, we don't even know where that's gonna go ultimately as far as funding for that. Escanaba connection to Wells, okay. But it, you know, we can't get to the point where we say, well, we just wanna keep everything the way it is and expect money to fall out of the sky. We have to objectively look at our assets and evaluate what we can live without, what we cannot live without,
Sure.
and what the public will tolerate living without. And the same thing applies to services, so.
I just wanted to make it clear that he is a very, you know, and I'm not saying you're saying he's a mean guy, but he is a very
No, it's
nice guy.
just-
He has Gladstone. He really thought he was doing us a favor by providing this green space. So I just, you know, you should have that little bit of a background on that.
From my understanding, until you said that, my understanding was we were dealing with a trustee. I
Sure.
didn't
And you
know
know
the
what?
person or.
The attorneys probably know a lot more than I do. I just know from conversations with the
Yeah.
gentleman.
But-
So when you go into doing the research, you might find out a lot more than I know. That's the only, just nice conversations twice a year with the
And
gentleman.
coming from a, from a financial standpoint, you are looking at a piece of property that's appreciated significantly since 1984.
Sure.
And has never been taxed.
Sure.
From that point on. So, I mean, that was my contention, so.
Would it be on the tax roll as of '84 since he's owned it the
No.
whole time? So-
Nice try, but no.
Well, I just hate to see something happen without him having some knowledge after he gave us over 30-some years of utilizing that. Maybe he has a plan and it might fit
But
into
keep in
something.
mind, we gave him over 30 years of not taxing the property that he owned that appreciated in value from originally what, probably, I don't know what it would have been worth in '84. I was 8 years old. So, there is 30 years of appreciation,
Benefits
so.
both ways.
Yep,
It's-
I think
it's
there's two-
give and
I've done-
take.
Mutual, yeah.
It's give and take.
Two sides,
Yep.
that's, I just wanted to let you know the other the side of the
Okay.
gentleman's, he's a very nice
So
guy.
maybe if we set a public hearing for June 8th, that would be almost a month to contact Mr. Radford and see if he, can come or can
Well,
hear
and
by
maybe,
letter or.
and maybe just tell him what the situation is within the city.
Yeah.
Let him know. I mean, he comes in the office and says, "Oh my gosh, parks are doing wonderful, everything's great." And I'm like, "Yeah, we're doing good." Well, maybe he doesn't know what's going on. I honestly, truly think he has the interest of Gladstone at his heart. He doesn't, he loves it. So maybe having that conversation on a more one-to-one basis, maybe he comes up with the idea that, hey, maybe we sell it, maybe we develop it. I don't know that. I can't speak for him without talking to him. The only information he knows is that we were doing fine and we were enjoying that piece of property. So we haven't told him that, we were thinking about developing or anything else. So maybe giving him that information will give him a chance to speak. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Nicole. Do I hear a motion then?
You mean for a public hearing?
Public hearing?
I move we have a public hearing on, June 8th is the date?
Yep.
On this parcel?
That being referred to the planning commission as well, or just a public
I-
hearing?
Well, you tell me if it needs to go.
I'm just wondering if the last motion was referring it to planning commission and the.
Well, what does the planning commission do? Do they look at what it can be utilized for and stuff like that? And then you can
How
have a
it fits
public
with the
hearing
master plan
to
and
say
land
what?
Determines the consistency with the master plan.
Just to see what the master
Well,
plan
then,
is.
that probably wouldn't be bad either, so throw that in there too.
I don't know if we need
I'm not
to,
trying to put words in, I was
No,
just
I mean, I
trying to
don't-
stay.
I don't know that we need to do that until we determine that we're
Well, that's what
prepared.
I was thinking. that it
I don't
was-
think that we need to do that until we're determined we're prepared to terminate the lease.
Strike that.
Right.
So basically, put it on, June 8th.
Yep.
And
And that'll be the citizens that'll talk to us about that on,
Right.
okay.
Yep.
I support
So
that.
That's
that
what
is-
I need.
That is not being referred to the planning commission?
No.
Okay, I have a motion that we set a public hearing for June 8th.
Support.
With the support of Commissioner View and the support by Commissioner Gay. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? All right, next is the ball field parcel.
Could I just add something here? For the benefit, now tell me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
For the benefit of the new commissioners and those people that are sitting here wondering why we're even thinking about selling city land, the reality is, a chart like this, you see this is where we are right now in paying for defined pension programs and health for people that have retired from the city of Gladstone. This past year was $600,000, you told me, right?
648,
In 4 or 5 years, that payment has to go to $1 million,
1.2.
1.2 million, and then comes back down. So inside of this bill, there's probably somewhere between $2 and $3 million we don't have. Just so everybody understands where the concern comes from. It comes from defined benefits that have to be paid because we have these commitments of defined pension benefits and health insurance for those people that have retired from the city. And that's what it looks like. And that's between I didn't add it up by year, but that's probably between at least 2 million, maybe closer to $3 million that the city of Gladstone doesn't have. Now, 1 mil for the city of Gladstone generates only $100,000 because we only have $100 million of tax base. That's kind of sobering when you think, we're going to pay more millage. Millage is 1 mil generates $100,000. That's all it generates. And we're talking between $2 and $3 million. What happens if the city can't pay this? Then the governor sends somebody here to straighten out the mess. What's the first thing they do? Sell assets. It's very sobering, but that's why it's even considered at all. I know that most of you don't normally, or a lot of you don't normally come to the meetings. I just want to make sure you understand why this was brought up in the first place at all. That's all. You gather all that? Did you know that?
I do now.
Okay. Well, I just want to be sure.
It's scary.
I know it is. I know it is.
Now I'm really scared.
Wait till you go through your budget hearing. It'll really be scary.
It is.
Okay, the next parcel we identified is called the Ballfield parcel. The map is attached there. It does not include where the pavilion is. This is like, take Lakeshore Drive, kind of draw a line across, and then it's everything south of that. This is not a clean parcel, according to the attorney. The city acquired this property from the state of Michigan to be used solely for municipal purposes. So when we cease to use it for municipal purposes, it should revert back to the state of Michigan. What we thought would be a possible next step is just to call the state of Michigan Attorney General's office to discuss, where are they at these days with, I can't see why they would want this parcel back. So if we can explain to them, if we could reserve the whole outer portion for the public and then develop some portion of the interior, would they want us to have a map or a potential development identified? I don't know. I don't know where the state's at with
This
getting rid of
particular,
their state property or.
this particular piece is one that I've thought was a very valuable piece since I've been here, since I lived here, and I could not for the life of me understand why there's a ball field down there. Now, I know there are a lot of people that, some of the younger programs, the younger kids' programs use this, but we have a sports park. And again, keep in mind, we're just simply trying to identify the options that we have. This particular piece, being that it was previously patented bottomlands, and it was, a lot of fill was put in there, may have additional challenges for construction as well. You may not be able to just put a 42-inch footing in and build a structure because of how it was filled in. We don't know that at this particular point. Which is why, again, we're looking at just a preliminary question to the Michigan AG's office. They may tell us, no, there's nothing we can do, we're not interested in doing anything, and then that's gonna it'll stay the way it is. But it is a very valuable piece, and, there's multiple things that could be done with this. The Planning Commission, if, after these several steps, in the event that this was sold and developed, the Planning Commission would have ultimate authority on what goes here, or approving the plan, I should say. I won't say ultimate authority, but they, it's a very valuable piece that could be everything from mixed use, combination, light commercial, residential. There's several communities that, deal with condominiums. There's all kinds of potential for this particular area, and if I remember correctly, there was an expansion of Phase 3 for the harbor that extended, I believe, this point out for a
It's a
break wall. Yeah.
To create mooring.
And what we were, looking at is if a portion of this ball field, not the entire thing, but if a portion of this ball field could support a development, especially if it was light commercial and residential combined, mixed use, whatever, and then you maintain all of the waterfront as city property, you could actually kind of carve out a piece of this and utilize it for tax base, yet still maintain 95% of the usability of this piece of property. So that's how we were looking at it. And again, we're in the preliminary stages for this, and this was probably the most complex of all the 4 pieces of property that we identified. This is something that we could wait 2 to 3 years before we even had the approval to put on the market. Beyond that, you'd be looking at soil studies to make sure that it can be built on, and if it's complex, they may end up with, they may end up sinking pylons to build on. It's hard to say. There's a lot of variables with this piece, but it is a very valuable piece. So it was a reason, we're looking at least contacting the Michigan AG's office and see if there's any possibility or what the process would be to eliminate that stipulation on the deed. Or we could give it back to them. Maybe they'd give us payment in lieu of taxes on waterfront property. That'd be sweet, But that's where we're at with that. Just frankly, a phone call and starting to investigate what we can do to find out what our options are on that piece of property.
So is the yacht club part of it then?
Yes.
Boy, I'd just like to make the comment that doing all this stuff really ain't gonna help us right now anyways, correct? I mean, you're projecting in the future by selling some of these assets and developing them. As far as, it could take years and years before you get the revenue back on the stuff that we own. Maybe that one guy, we can instantly get tax revenue for him, which, might be. But the rest of this, I mean, we got prime property in Gladstone already that doesn't sell.
Yep, but we don't have prime property on the waterfront that
No.
doesn't sell. We have prime property on the bluff that doesn't sell. And you have to start somewhere. You at least need to identify your options. You can't put a plan of action together without knowing what all your options are, and that's what we're.
A lot of citizens helped build that too, just remember that, there's, so it's probably dear to a lot of people in the city of what we have down there. And
Well, then I guess the next question out of my mouth is what service, would they like to pay higher taxes, or would they like their services reduced? If so, which services would they like reduced? I mean, we need to be frank with what the financial reality of the city. We're in the preliminary stages of just looking at the potential of properties that we might eventually put up for sale, and we already have, I would venture to say that, we've got quite a bit of static as a result of just mentioning that. Well, okay, fine, then if we don't want to do that, then what services do you want to cut? Or do you want to pay higher taxes? So again, A, B, or C, those are the 3 choices. There's nothing in between. So,
Have we made any headway on that big parcel by public safety? We were talking with Bessie, or,
we talked about that piece of property, and it is a very good property for development. The only issue with that would be the lack of infrastructure there, as far as water,
No.
wastewater, that type of thing.
right, there has to be infrastructure to go to public safety, and that's right on the border of it.
I know we were talking to Eric about that, and they're depending, because there's quite a bit of
I mean,
space
that's,
there.
there's a lot of acreage there.
There's quite a bit of space there, but you would have
Right.
to, it was an additional.
I understand.
There was an additional significantly larger line that was required beyond what currently services public safety.
Okay, understand. Is that listed, is that area known to be for sale?
The city's portion is, but we don't own all that.
Right, I understand.
Yep, the
Okay.
city's portion is on our list for sale. Yep.
And
Lakefront?
who has the list?
It's on our website. Vicky Schwab, Delta County EDA
Has it?
has it.
is that lake frontage?
Nope.
No,
We don't
it's
own
up
lake frontage
to
over there.
lake
It's, that's why we kind of.
Someone else-
It's just, it's kind of complex.
Someone
because
else
we-
owns the lakefront.
Yeah, it's kind of carved out to where that
Got a great view of
small
the lake,
portion
though.
of the lake frontage is
Till somebody
not.
builds in front of you.
No, it's sloped down.
Oh,
Yeah, you could never build on that portion that's owned by someone else.
What action do we need to take on this piece?
Should we contact the state of Michigan, or I
Yes,
think that's really the first step on this one?
I move we contact the state of Michigan.
Support?
All right, got a motion to contact the state of Michigan by Pro Tem Nemechek, and the support by Commissioner Gay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Aye.
Okay, Commissioner Nemechek,
Yes.
Commissioner Thompson,
Yes.
Commissioner View,
Yes.
Commissioner Gay,
Yes.
Mayor Bostwick.
No.
Motion carries.
All right, next is the Minneapolis Avenue project.
This parcel is city-owned. Legal description is part of the Bay Park Addition, lots 56 through 63, currently zoned R2. Needs further review of the grant agreement for the paved portion of the boardwalk that went through there. Needed to, I mean, what we can easily read, you know, we need to maintain this path for at least 20 years, but, you know, I kind of agree. We talked about, Russ Hall was mentioning earlier, leaving the path along the water. Could we develop between the path and the street? If so, you know, how much, we would need a boundary survey to determine how much that property is, and then look at zoning, you know, what's your front and rear and side setbacks, how much development could occur there? Or could we move the path towards the street to connect up with the boardwalk? Again, we would need a boundary survey to determine what is developable. We need to determine where the high water mark is in that point along the water there, to see, you know, the path, we're pretty secure with where the path is right now, the paved portion of it. But how much property is between the paved portion and the street, and to see what kind of development would fit in there. So further analysis needs to be done of this parcel. Really, I'd probably say wait on this parcel and don't do anything until we determine from the granting agency. We could acquire a boundary survey if you wanted to, but
Darla, you and I had a conversation Friday regarding this. I don't know if you'd gotten anything back from the attorney.
nothing further.
Okay,
No.
the attorney is currently reviewing the grant paperwork
File,
to
yeah.
see what the restrictions are. I don't really, you know, I believe they said the boundary survey would be $1,500, 12, 15, something like that, up towards 2,000. I'm not real comfortable with spending the money until we at least have a determination from our attorney that we have the option of selling it. And again, this
Right.
is another piece of property that we had talked about as far as preserving lakefront, and obviously we'd have to deal with this walkway, and there would be some cost involved with preserving that walkway. Particularly, we'd run into a little bit of a roadblock if we couldn't move it out any further, but
Right.
we would need to preserve that walkway on the lakefront and preserve that portion of it as public property. So, you know, the only difference would be moving it towards the lake, and then there would be potential of residential development. I don't see that being anything but residential as far as development there, so.
I think the reality on that piece is that the people that live across the street would want to buy it to preserve their view and nothing be built. That's what I'd do if I lived across the street.
Well, I guess they would have that option then, if the commission decided to put it up for sale.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I mean, you know, to say that there would be development on that property, I would guess there wouldn't be.
That very well could be, but.
But we would be getting some tax
Right.
Yes.
revenue from it.
Yep. So I guess my personal, based on, you know, being involved with this committee, dealing with this, my personal thing right now is I wouldn't do anything until we have some sort of resolve from the attorney on our
Yep.
agreement. I agree with the city manager.
All right, do we need to make a motion to
If you're
table it?
tabling it, and you could table it till when that attorney opinion is back.
I would
I
move
don't know
to
if you have
table.
a set date, but.
I would move to table the Minneapolis Avenue paved portion boardwalk area to June 8th for further review upon receipt of the determination by the city attorney.
Second.
All right, there's a motion to table it till June 8th from Commissioner Gay and support from Pro Tem Nemechek. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, next is city manager's report.
Some positive news. We received a letter this past week from Hannahville. The 2% grants that we applied for, we received an award for $2,000 for the public library. We requested 8, so we're happy with 2,000. And then Rockin' the Bays, the music festival that they put on, they awarded 6,000 for that. So that was good to see when I signed the agreements, and when we get the money, we'll pass it on to the library and the yacht club for the events.
Rockin' the Bay got 3 times what the library got. Right. Just thinking out loud.
Tomorrow morning, DDA meeting at 8 o'clock. Wednesday, joint governmental at noon. Don Pyle from the landfill will be presenting on that, so that should be a good presentation. And then Thursday and Friday, I'll be in Munising at the UP City Managers meetings. That's about all I have.
All right. Does anyone have anything from the city commission and committee report or board and commission reports? No? Okay. Next will be public comment. Mr. Wykoff.
My name's Gary Wykoff of 36 Royal Oak Drive, and I must say that I agree with much of Mr. Gay's comments here about the 3 areas of either we start being a little wiser in spending money, we either cut it, we raise it, or we begin to increase the tax base. So I agree with that. And one of the examples that I thought I'd bring, and it's something that's been brought up at this meeting by a number of people asking, what have we gained from the ski hill? And it took several different meetings, and we didn't get any kind of feedback in terms of what was gained or lost or cost or what. I finally was able to come up with some numbers, and the best I can tell, we lost $77,311 on that last year. And on revenue of $54,631 with $131,942 in expenses. And so I guess the point is that, yeah, it's just $77,000, and we need to have something for the kids and what have you. But then I hear we've had 85% of the tubers from outside of the city. We're talking about raising rates on passes, but yet we're still supporting this, what I feel is a fairly significant number of dollars when we're looking at equipment and building repairs here that we're struggling to find dollars, which still cost us $77,000 up there. In there was a $48,000 capital expense on the ball field and a $25,328 capital expense, I guess, on a vehicle. I couldn't quite figure out what it was. So what I'm saying is that we're putting a lot of money in, and I'd like to know how many people are using it, unique visitors. That's just my point. And that's just one department, one small area, and I agree that I think we need to look very closely at where our money is going, and this is just one example.
Thank you.
And those are real numbers. Got them this morning.
Any other public comments?
My name is Ken Levine. I live at 2722 South Hill Road, Gladstone. I've been involved with the compost pile for quite a while. What I'm here for tonight, I need more volunteers. Next week, there's only me and one other person that's going to be there. I've been putting a lot of hours over there. And I'd like to thank Darla and Mark, for really getting us on the ball. We got the fence up Saturday.
Is the gate up?
The gate is up.
Oh, good.
I mean, not the fence, I should have said the gate. And the signs are being made. As soon as they're made, we'll be closed Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday will be open to 8 to 8. Now, I still have a big problem with these stickers. I had a person in there Friday, looked like a contractor actually. Well, he had one of these stickers, and they already were emptying, so I says, well, where'd you get that? She says, well, I'm up here dumping this stuff for a lady. Well, I have no way of knowing. Anyway, she showed up about hour and a half later with another load, and she showed me the sticker. These people are not putting these stickers on where they belong. They're keeping them back to them, told me they weren't even going to put it on. Well, if they don't put it on, we ain't going to leave them in that gate. Everybody's got to pay now. That's the way it's set up. And they're keeping it clean. I just went there before I come to this meeting. 10 bags of leaves were left right in the bag, right in the pile. You know, we worked hard up there to try to keep people from dumping, trying to tell them where to put the branches, where to put their leaves and everything. And it's looking pretty good now. I think you know about that.
Yep.
And
I've been there.
I need volunteers. That's what I need to work with. I can't be up there every day, 6 hours. I got other things I got to do with my wife and family. I went to Illinois to visit my kids for 4 days. Well, that was a help. But we do need volunteers. Anybody knows anybody who wants to volunteer, we would appreciate it. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Thanks for all your
Gaines.
help.
You're welcome.
Eric Huseby, 1403 Wisconsin Avenue. The thing about the stickers there, we got 3 pickup trucks. And if you give me only 1 sticker, what am I going to do if I have to put it in one of my windows and I don't have that truck that day and I want to run up there? Are you going to give me 2 more stickers, or how is that going to work now? And the other comment I have is this planning commission has an awful lot of power in the city. Everything is forwarded to the planning commission. I think your new commissioner should ask, how many of those people actually live in the city of Gladstone? And my understanding is there's one that doesn't even live in Delta County. So these people who are having a lot of control over us don't even live here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Huseby.
I don't know. It's the first I ever heard of it.
Anyone else?
Hello, Renee Bilkey, 21 Sandy Lane, and I really appreciate the questions. I would like more answers to these questions because I have the same questions, and we never have a meeting to actually hear the responses. There's like, you can call so-and-so, come for coffee, but the public isn't invited to that, so I'd like to hear those answers. And on another comment, I lost my train of thought. Okay, my son can't get from, my 2 sons are teenagers, 17 and 15. They can't get safely from up on the bluff to downtown. One has flipped head over heels on the North Bluff drainage ditch because it's too dangerous to ride along the side of the highway. So I don't know what our options are. Before this other trail is set to proceed, I'd like to see us current residents and taxpayers get more for our money. I mean, we have a trail that's right behind our house, but it has many interruptions from each output that goes to the highway. I'd like to see a little bit safer to get down the hill, to utilize downtown, because we have no access for our kids. I mean, we've taken them down there many times, but us as adults on bikes even, we don't feel safe. I don't know how many of you have ridden bikes downtown, but it's, or from the bluff to downtown. It's pretty scary. A lot of distracted drivers. We just don't have the access, let alone get down to the intersections. That's a whole nother deal, but. And there was one more thing, but I can't remember. So that's it.
Thank you. Thanks. Anyone else? All right, moving on to city commissioner comments. We'll start with Pro Tem Nemechek.
I would like us to have the second, or either the first or second, instead of public comment, have public questions. I mean, a man like Dean comes to a meeting to find out when we're going to go from 8 to 8, and we tell him that he has to make a call and do it. Well, why don't we just tell him?
You need to amend your commission rules to allow that.
Well, I would make the motion immediately. I mean, the man came here just to find out when the office is going to be open 8 to 8 or whatever it is. I mean, 8 to 4, 8 to 4?
That's what we were proposing, but I
8
couldn't
to
work
4.
with the union, so I don't have the money. I don't have the money to do it. The union would not agree with me on a wage to pay the full-time staff, so
Heard your answer.
I can't fit it in the budget.
Okay.
I'm still working on it, but
Yeah, well, you know, if we had one be public comment and the other would be public questions, I did not know if that's true, that we have people on the planning commission that aren't citizens of Gladstone?
one planning commission member is not is not a city resident, but that's allowable under the Planning Enabling Act that
There's one.
allows planning commission.
One out of how many?
Seven?
Does this person have special skills that we want them on the commission?
They're a realtor.
Oh, okay. Okay, well,
There's a state
I wouldn't have
planning-
known that.
There's a state planning act that dictates who can be on your planning commission and
Okay.
who meets the criteria to
Okay.
be, so.
And what
our-
rules
ours
they
is-
have.
Right, they are, it is legal,
Yep.
the one that stands, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner View.
Yes. No, I hope you didn't feel the table shake. I'm a little more calm now, but I did a lot of reading on the budget. I probably should have read protocol, parliamentary procedure, but I was more interested in the budget. It's gonna take me a little bit of while to get up to speed on it, but I do dedicate myself to that. And my main concern is gonna be doing what the citizens want as far as items that we need to take care of, stuff like that. So I just plead with you to get a hold of me any way you can. Contact me. I'm told I'm gonna get an email address.
Yep.
I'll read every one. I
Go
need-
on a bus trip with you, and you got you for 4 hours.
Yep. I'll answer any questions, show you any documents you want to see that's within reason for the city. I'm very open that way, and I need your help. I can only do as good as you let me do, and that's what I'm looking forward to. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Commissioner Gay.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Thompson.
Well, I'm glad to be up here, and I'm looking forward to helping with the matters of the city, and like Steve, the more input, the better, so, you know, give me a call, send me an email. I'll do whatever I can to answer any questions. We'll work together, and we'll try to get to a better place. So,
All right, thank you. I did agree with Mr. Pro Tem Nemechek, though, that the way the public comments section at the beginning and the end needs to be changed. So I was hoping that we could amend the rules, and they said it couldn't be till the next meeting when it goes on the agenda.
Okay.
And
I would
For-
like to caution you
Yeah.
on that, because what you're going to create is you're gonna create a situation where you have debate between the public and the commission, and it can very easily get out of control, which is why those rules exist. The public addresses the mayor, the commission through the mayor. If there are questions for staff, notes are taken by staff, and staff responds. And the same thing applies to commissioners. I understand Dave's, I understand yours too. I mean, it's a simple question. Why can't we just answer it?
You tell Dean why we're not open. I mean, the
I
man
don't-
came
I
here to
don't-
find out, right?
I don't disagree with that at
Yeah.
all. The only thing is, especially as we go on and get into these
I know.
heavily emotional issues, very quickly, a meeting can get out of control
I agree.
because you have debate going back and forth, so you might want to take that in consideration. Furthermore, staff should not be put on the spot by the public. They should have the opportunity to research a question and provide adequate information. I don't feel that's fair to them when they're asked a question, because staff's here every day. And a lot of times these questions are directed at staff, as that one was. Now, obviously, Darla has a direct, immediate answer for that, but a lot of the questions that are asked, they don't have immediate, they have to research numbers, et cetera, et cetera. So I would caution that the commission thinks that through before modifying that particular part of the rules of procedure.
yeah, my thing wasn't exactly what Dave's was. Mine was, at the beginning, they talk about stuff that's on the agenda only, and then at the end, just anything that wasn't on the agenda. So, because I do agree, though, that the staff doesn't have a lot of time. They are only working on what's on our agenda, so they don't have the any other information at that time for anything else that someone, they might not know what's going to be asked on them. So, all right, next is the city clerk's comment.
I have a reminder that May 20th, the City Commission is attending a training session right here at our DDA building from 6 to 8:30 on specifically that, leadership through effective meetings, which will be fantastic in relation to that. It explains the parts of a meeting, how you run it. One thing, too, in relationship to rules, not that everybody likes rules, but it does keep the meeting flowing. You can spend a lot of time on a lot of questions that aren't necessarily super simple to answer, and you haven't even touched the agenda yet. So there's reasons for that, and sometimes there is research that needs to be done. There's ways to accomplish what you guys are talking about, but I find it fantastic you're going to be attending that training so you can learn how to do that and make those things happen and still run a very effective meeting. And I know it's not ever that we don't want to give the information or whatever, but sometimes the question is not as simple as it sounds. And like, you know, Mayor was saying, you don't bring all of your stats and statistics and numbers with you to the meeting. But we'll be happy to provide that. So reminder to you guys, May 20th, 6 to 8:30 is that training session, which covers that.
May 20th, 6 to 8:30.
6 to 8:30 at the DDA.
PM?
Yes. And that's being put on by MSU Extension Office, and they do fantastic training. So it kind of works out really well with current things right now.
Is there going to be any supper or any food, or should we be eating beforehand?
That is
Well, I don't
not-
know. State's
yeah.
putting it on.
Yeah. No, I would recommend eating before.
Okay.
It was not on there. There might be light refreshments, but I don't think meal is provided.
No.
One thing
I hate eating before, and then I go to a meeting, and there's all kinds of good food.
I will double check that for you, but that was not on the itinerary.
Okay, thank you.
Also, to encourage people, great opportunity at the study session. They are always open to the public. Budget workshop, study sessions, things like that. A lot of questions. We'll be going over in detail those same questions that probably our new commissioners have as well. Great opportunity for you to hear it firsthand, and staff will be there, all department heads. So there should be some really good discussions and a lot of great information. Those are open to the public, so you're welcome to attend, encouraged to attend. And then also, I usually after election give the stats on our voter turnout. The voter turnout was 28.19% for the May election. That's pretty good for a city election. And how that compares with the state, but so that is all I have tonight.
All right, thank you, Kim. The meeting is adjourned.